Journey to Knicks for the most part.
Sure.
And he played Mono Black Aggro there, and he's playing it here this weekend. This is a deck that was popular in the Block Constructed Pro Tour and Pro Tour Journey into Knicks. People have tried it in Standard, but to very little success, honestly.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype basically around the third one-drop. But really, you need more than just a giant pile of one-drops that attack for 2 to actually be a deck.
Yeah, that's been kind of the problem, I think. Mm-hmm. We see a Thoughtseize here from Ellis. He's going to he's going to look at a Jace, an Aetherling, a Supreme Verdict, Attention Sphere, another Jace, and a Thoughtseize. Don't have a good look at Jason's hand. It seems like he's probably going to decide between the Verdict or the D-Sphere here.
Yeah, I would think so. There's that one land hanging out there at the bottom, that one Watery Grave. This is not a land-heavy hand for Tony. He's going to need some help in order to actually cast any of his spells. That Aetherling, basically a dead card.
Yeah.
It, in theory, will matter if the game goes long enough, but really not a card you want in your opening hand in this matchup.
We're going to go with the D-Sphere. Fair enough. Tormented Hero is going to come in for 2. Frontiero is going to go down to 18, and you see there's a follow-up play here. It's a pretty good one in Arachnos Cackler. That's what this deck is actually all about. And we've seen in formats past where having the deck that has the 1-mana, 2-power creatures, it can be too fast for some decks to handle, but oddly enough, that's just really not the case in this standard format.
No, the big problem for these style decks is really Courser of Kruphix and Sylvan Caryatid, probably more so than Courser, actually.
Yeah.
But that package, you don't really see one without the other.
Yep.
But those 2 cards in particular are very effective at stopping 2-powered creatures from attacking.
Herald Torment going to come into play here. Notice the Mutavault that Ellis played as well, so he's being very aggressive. That's what this deck is able to do. You know, if a deck kind of fumbles and stumbles like Frontiero is doing right now, it doesn't give you any breathing room to actually catch back up. You see Ellis is going to take one from the trigger for the Herald. He also has a copy of Bogus Marauder in his hand, which, while the Intimidate effect is not important in this matchup, the fact that it just has haste is.
Yeah, well, the fact that it's just a body that can attack and block. Even if it didn't have haste, it would be very good here. Tony, we know, is at least 2 draw steps away from actually doing anything. Tony, of course, he has a Last Breath that he has drawn in the meantime, so he's going to get to interact in some minor way. But really, Jason, I don't think cares about anything Tony does unless it's land Supreme Verdict at this stage.
Yeah. Here come your attackers. It's going to be an attack for 9. As you mentioned, the Last Breath is going to allow Frontiero to interact with Ellis. He will take care of the Tormented Hero. Ellis will get a little bit of life, which really doesn't matter very much. What's important here is Frontiero is going down from 14 to 7. So it looks like he's facing lethal on the very next turn.
Yeah, that Last Breath doesn't even actually change the clock.
Nope.
Was a 2-turn clock, removes the creature, still a 2-turn clock.
No third land and not much more of that game to be played. Jason Ellis is going to win game number 1 here over Tony Frontiero. Pretty easily with Mono Black, all things considered.
Yeah, when Mono Black aggro looks good, it looks really good.
This is true.
It does make Magic look very easy when it's winning.
The thing that I find really interesting about Mono Black is just there's a lot of different cards that you can play. The 2-drop spot has been a topic of discussion for some time. You know, you look at Thrill Kill Assassin, gets by Sylvan Caryatid, gets by Courser of Kruphix, those cards that you did mention. Only 2 copies of that here in Ellis's deck. You've got Spiteful Return. It's just a 1/1, but in theory, it's a 3/1.
Sure.
You like to think. Pain Seer, it's a new Dark Confidant. Not really.
Kind of.
Not even close, really. Yeah. It's kind of sad, actually, how bad that card is. And then you got I even mentioned Pack Rat. I actually kind of forgot about Pack Rat because that's kind of the standard that people go for with Mono Black Devotion, not playing any of that card either. Then you got your 3s. Obviously, you have Master of the Feast and other stuff like that. So the slots, as far as the deck go, there's a ton of them to be played.
There really are.
But this is kind of the version that Ellis is playing is pretty stock. Honestly, and you take a look at his sideboard, he's got 2 Deathrite Shamans, 4 Duress, a Zathra Necromancer, a couple of copies of Lifebane Zombie. That's another 3 he could play in the main deck, given how much Jund Monsters there has been. 3 Doomblades and then 3 Dark Betrayals. In this particular matchup, I expect to see Duress come in. I can see the Zathra Necromancer come in. Outside of that, I don't really think he needs much more help.
No, probably not.
Just kind of get these removal spells out of here.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to keep probably the Hero's Downfalls for Jaces and just for stray Mutavaults and things like that. But has more removal than he needs in this matchup. So, yeah, I think you're right. Just exchanges some removal for some more action there.
Outside of drawing lands for Tony, I mean, I would recommend getting those Doomblades out of his deck. He's got a couple of those.
Yeah, well, he has one. He has one main deck Doomblade. Those can't kill anything other than Mutavault. So, yes, I think he will want to get rid of that. Tony actually has a pretty impressive package of his own out of the sideboard. Gains access to 2 Nyx Fleece Ram, 2 Fiendslayer Paladin, 2 Archangel of Thune, and 2 Blood Baron of Viscopa. So basically after board, he has just the one Aetherling in his main deck. But after board, he actually brings in a package of creatures. Some of them are just blockers. Some of them can be aggressive in their own right. They all gain life. That's huge. I don't think he brings anything else. He has access, other than those creatures, he has 2 Dispel, 2 Thoughtseize, 1 Blind Obedience, maybe he wants that. He actually probably does. And 1 Negate and 1 Faded Retribution. So a package of life gain, 9 cards in total. The question is really, can he make room for all of that? And I would assume that that would not be a problem. Likely cuts the Aetherling if he's bringing in so many other threats. Of course, gets the Doomblade out of there. I don't think he wants Thoughtseize in this matchup. The counter magic is not good. Really, you want to be able to deal with things that are on the board.
Yeah.
You can't afford to sit with reactive spells in hand in this matchup. So it has 4 Dissolve, 1 Syncopate. So that's 5 slots. Doomblade is 6, Thoughtseize is 7, 8, and Aetherling is 9. So a pretty clean transition, I think. That's how I would board, just basically bringing in a bunch of 5-drop whammies that gain life, Nyx Fleece Rams and Fiendslayer Paladins to kind of bridge the gap there.
Where I imagine Ellis has got a lot of his edge over the course of the tournament is that people just aren't ready for this style of deck. This is something that when Journey Nyx came in, everyone's like, you know, this is pretty easy to build and straightforward and put together. So I want to make sure that I'm able to beat decks that are pretty low to the ground and pretty quick.
Sure.
As the weeks have gone by and we've, kind of transitioned to the Open Series, these kind of decks have just not really had a lot of success. Be it red, be it this color, mono black, just no low to the ground, hyper aggressive aggro deck has really had success.
Right.
I think the best we could say, and it doesn't really even fit into that camp, is Burn.
Sure.
I think that's the closest we've gotten.
Oh,
so
yeah, Burn is definitely its own thing.
Yeah. So now you've got Ellis kind of playing this strategy where it wouldn't surprise me if, Frontiero was just like, well, I didn't even prepare for this because I expected a lot of mid-range decks, and I have big range one last weekend. Stuff like that. We haven't seen anything that is just, I'll play another one drop.
This is actually a fantastic weekend for Jackal Pup, I think.
Yeah.
We actually saw mono red aggro lock up a top 8 spot last round.
Jeez, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, Fire Drinker Satyr and all of his friends. Won a match in about 6 minutes, I felt like. So.
And it's kind of funny because those decks are really easy to beat, mono red or this one, for example, if you want to beat them.
Yeah,
it's not hard at all. But if people are kind of ignoring them, which kind of makes sense given what's happened over the past couple of weeks, it's kind of a good spot to do this sort of thing in.
Yeah, a deck like Jund Monsters, which we were talking about, is probably the deck to beat right now.
Yep.
That deck doesn't care about a bunch of spot removal.
Yep.
Particularly cheap, kind of subjective spot removal. So people trim those cards, and then these style decks show up to take advantage.
Here's the thoughts. He's going to take a look at a deicide. You've got a Sphinx's Revelation, 2 Heroes Downfall, a Temple of Silence, and a Godless Shrine. And while Heroes Downfall is fine in this situation, when you're paying 3 mana to take care of a 1 mana spell, you can't be happy with that exchange.
That's true. In this particular case, he has lands, so that's an improvement over last game.
That's a start.
But he's going to get to interact at every stage of the game.
Yeah.
The Thoughtseize is going to clear out that deicide, which could get rid of a creature. But he's going to be able to actually cast a removal spell into a removal spell, and if he finds a land, he's going to be able to cast that Blood Baron of his Vizkopa. Can Jason do anything about a Blood Baron?
We're drawing dead.
He can Lifebane Zombie it.
Yeah, I guess that's the best we can do, and that assumes that Lifebane Zombie's in his deck after sideboard, and the timing lines up, of course.
Yeah.
But once Blood Baron gets into play, it's not so good. Now, one of the things, again, we mentioned how it can be very easy to beat these kind of decks if you want to. A card for that, really shows that is Nyx Fleece Ram, which Tony just drew last turn. That card is very difficult to beat.
Yeah, Nyx Fleece Ram is kind of an unsung journey into Nyx All-Star. It's, of course, not a main deck card, so it doesn't get a lot of props, really, but this card has been showing up in a ton of sideboards. You see it left and right. It's in every Sphinx's Revelation deck. It's in a lot of the mid-range decks at this point. Honestly, Nyx Fleece Ram might quietly be the real reason why these decks have kind of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because Nyx Fleece Ram isn't this card where you play it and you're like, oh, man, that card's so good, like Obza or something like that. It's just like, it's really annoying, and I really can't do anything about it. And I think I lost to that, maybe?
Yeah.
But that card is, that's the aggro. Yeah, you have to Heroes Downfall, that stupid thing.
Like, get out of there. Yeah.
You're going to see an attack here for, it looks like 3, which leads me to believe that Ellis has a follow-up play. If he's not leaving Deathrite back. I am surprised, though, to see Jason actually bring in Deathrite Shaman because he doesn't have green mana. Not that he would really want it.
Yeah, gaining life is not the issue here. Likely this is kind of a way to range. You have to assume that your initial assault is going to drop Tony down to like 8 at the highest, 8, 6, 4, down somewhere around there. Once he's there, you could see him stabilizing behind Jace Architect of Thought, behind, well, Nyx Fleece Ram, actually.
Sure.
But in the main deck, you have to worry about Elspeth, for example, making tokens that will kind of gum up the works.
Yeah.
Being able to ignore that is pretty valuable.
Ellis right now has a copy of Spiteful Return in his hand. He also has a land. So right now what Jason's deciding is, where do I want to put this Spiteful Return? What's the best creature? And you know, the obvious one, I think, is the Tormented Hero. Doesn't mean that it's correct, but it's the obvious one because you get to trigger the Heroic.
Yeah, just getting that extra trigger is pretty valuable. Of course, he knows about Hero's Downfall, too. So that's the real question there is, like, do I want to put this, whatever I put this on is going to die.
Yep.
So do I want to get the heroic trigger, however minor it may be, or do I want to put it on something that is slightly worse in the abstract?
So Frontiero finally drew the land. The problem here, I use problem kind of lightly, is that it's a Hollow Fountain. He's going to have to take 2 to cast that Blood Baron in this situation, assuming that that's what he wants to cast at this point. It seems pretty difficult to pass that up, but let's say he takes the 2. Deathrite will put him down to 4. Deathrite will put him down to 2. And Spiteful Return's trigger will put him down to 0.
Yeah, so Deathrite Shaman actually really pulling its weight here. And I think we see Tony kind of running that math and coming to that same conclusion. He does have access to, I believe, another copy of Hero's Downfall. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he never cast the first one, actually. So he can deal with it, but he's still in bad shape here. He's gonna, yeah, like, he can Hero's Downfall. I think Spiteful Return is the best target. It basically attacks for 3, whereas the others only do 2. Can do that, falls to 6 as end step. The Scarhide drops him to 4. And then he's actually right back where he started.
And if the Spiteful Return comes rolling off the top of the deck, he just dies right here, right?
Well, sure.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, you can't really play around some of these things.
Yeah.
And actually, no, I think he's just DOB. Yeah, because there's a Mutavault hiding in the row. Yeah, I actually kind of missed that for a moment there, too. Yeah, put you down to 2, activate the Deathrite Shaman, put you down to a 0. He's going to show a Blood Baron, a Sphinx of Revelation, and Elspeth.
Wow.
All 3 of those cards are both very powerful and very expensive.
They are.
And he's going to end up dying to Gnarled Scarhide, friends. So Jason Ellis is going to win this match 2-0. Mono Black aggro very quickly dispatching Esper Control. And you have to imagine that's a good matchup for Mono Black aggro.
I would think so, yeah. I mean, I think that's got to be one of the big draws to playing a deck like Mono Black aggro at this stage.
What this is here, this is an example, I feel, of metagaming.